Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor for me to be here, to be invited here on this occasion. And I would like to congratulate our Ahwazi brothers and sisters on the 23rd anniversary of Ahwaz Democratic Popular Front, founded in the 90s, and the continuation of their struggle for independence. I also would like to, on part of the Baloch people, the freedom-loving people of Balochistan and the Baloch community of Canada, and the Baloch Human Rights Council of Canada, I strongly condemn the illegal and inhuman sentencing of the 5 Ahwazi political activists to death by the Iranian fascist regime. This will not stop the Ahwazi people from struggling for their independence. These are just small milestones that, as a people in their struggle, will overcome. I would like to present here some very key concepts or ideas and thoughts, what freedom really means. Freedom is not just a beautiful word, just like the revolution. It's not just a beautiful word. It has a strong historical context. And I would like to present some thoughts on that by people who have been in struggle, by leaders who have led their people to freedom and gained that freedom, achieved their rights. For example, I would like to quote Malcolm X in saying, "You cannot separate peace from freedom, because no one can be at peace unless he has his freedom. And those who deny freedom to others deserve it not for themselves," like said by Abraham Lincoln. And also they say, like, freedom is never free. Freedom has a price. As mentioned here earlier, the 5 Ahwazi political activists who have been sentenced to death, and similarly in Balochistan, in other areas, in Kurdistan and all over the world, people fighting for their independence, for their freedom, for their rights, have paid a very heavy price, the price of their blood. A whole generation was lost so that the coming generation can enjoy the fruits of that freedom. Freedom is the natural state of human existence. Oppression and slavery is the opposite of that, the unnatural form of life, where human condition is degraded into a meaningless void of violence. Again, the concept is, without freedom, there is no peace. And people or nations who occupy other people and nations, enslave them, can themselves never be free. This is what history has taught us. As far as the international forums go, like mentioned here and elsewhere, we have been struggling at the United Nations also for our rights and freedoms. I would like to mention a few things as mentioned by a very good comrade of ours. What United Nations is. He says the oppressed and occupied nations continue to suffer at the hands of member states of the United Nations. Balochistan also is one such stateless nation that has long been attacked, invaded, plundered, and divided by occupying nations that are signatories and members of the UN Human Rights Council, and the same nations who sit in the Security Council at the United Nations also are the occupying forces in the form of Pakistan, Iran, other places. And we cannot expect that these occupying nations who have enslaved us will just grant us freedom, they think it is their moral duty. They will not. Freedom has never been given to a people. It has been achieved through struggle. Now I would like to, without going into the history of how Baloch nation and Balochistan lost its freedom since 1839, when the British occupied us as a colonial power and divided Balochistan by artificial boundaries, which they called the British Boundary Commissions. In 1839, 1871, those commissions were called the During Line and the Goldsmith Lines, which divided the Balochistan state, a sovereign state, into the northern Balochistan, which is in Afghanistan, some parts in Pakistan, which is eastern Balochistan, and the other part, the western Balochistan, is occupied by Iran. So this is a kind of a small history that goes back. And since then, Balochistan, the people of Balochistan, the freedom-loving people of Balochistan have been in struggle against all these occupation forces. Recently, I just would like to add what's happening currently over there. On December 25th, when the world was celebrating Christmas, especially the Western world, Canada, US, and Europe, the Pakistani government, the Pakistani armed forces, they hatched a plan. And they found it very suitable that since half of the world, especially the democratic world, the enlightened world, the world that has the power to say or stop oppression and genocide, would be too busy in these events, they started one of the bloodiest massacres in Balochistan last year. On 25th of December, which was a Christmas day for the Western world, gunship helicopters, around 5 of them, 70 armored personal vehicles and trucks of armed forces of Pakistan Army, they entered a very small village in Balochistan, in the Awaram district. The place is called Mashke. Mashke was important for the Pakistani army because it's a source of the resistance struggle. The leader of the armed movement, Dr. Allah Nizar, is a physician by profession who is leading this popular armed resistance over there against the armed forces. That was his hometown, Mashke. And the whole hometown of this leader was collectively punished just because this leader was born in that village. By aerial bombardment, the houses were destroyed. By the end of the operation, around 50 people, including women and children, lost their lives. The youngest was a child, probably she was 4 or 5 years old. Even the leader's mother was injured in that bombardment. People had to go and find refuge in the graveyards. Around more than 30 of young men were taken away. We still don't know what happened to them. This is an ongoing continuation of the armed oppression by the Pakistani army on Balochistan, occupied by Pakistan. So far, since 2003, Balochistan's liberation struggle has started in the Pakistani-occupied Balochistan. 14,000, more than 14,000 people have disappeared, mostly political activists, lawyers, doctors, teachers, students. Around 600 of these disappeared political activists were tortured and executed in custody, and their bodies were dumped on the streets and in wilderness. And we still don't know what is going to become the fate of the rest of the 14,000 people. These are the human rights grave reports coming in from there, and by the families of the people who have been disappeared. In the end, I don't want to take much of the time because there are other speakers. I would like to end my talk here with the best wishes to Allahabadi friends, and long live independent Allahabad, Kurdistan, South Azerbaijan, South Turkmenistan, and Balochistan.